Happy New Year, everyone. And we want to commence this meeting at 1:34 p.m. on Wednesday, January 15, 2025. And this is a meeting of the Commission of Diversity Awareness. And I want to call this meeting to order. And secondly, let's have a roll call. Carolyn Kidd, Chair here. Sandra Darling. Commissioner Mandy Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Mandy Martinez-Gebler. Commissioner Mindy Reisenberg.
Present.
Commissioner Angelica Sanchez.
Present.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead and get to item number 3. Mission statement and land acknowledgement. And again, I do apologize. My camera is not working. It's not, my video is not being cooperative this morning. So I hope you can just hang on to my little face there, my picture. And Commissioner Sanchez, would you mind reading our mission statement, please?
Sure thing. Our mission statement is a commission to foster support, respect, awareness, and appreciation of diversity among all citizens of Flagstaff.
Thank you. And Commissioner Hernandez, do you mind reading our land acknowledgement?
Yeah, I'll go right ahead. Our land acknowledgement. The Commission on Diversity Awareness humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's Indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by Native descendants, border mountains sacred to Indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place is home.
Thank you. Item number 4, upcoming opportunities and announcements. Do we have any upcoming opportunities and announcements? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to item number 5, public comment. And the Commission cannot act upon items presented during the public participation portion of the agenda. Individual Commission members may ask questions of the public, but are prohibited by the open meeting law from discussion or considering the item among themselves until the item is officially placed on the agenda. Each public comment or presentation will be limited to 5 minutes. Are there any public comments today? Chris, are you seeing anything in the chat, or do you have anything?
I do not see anything in the chat, no. I'll note that Commissioner Gebler did arrive during the roll call, so she is present.
Welcome, Commissioner Gebler. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to give it 2 more minutes before we close public comment. Is that okay with everyone?
And I apologize, I just entered. What specifically was the public comment geared toward right now?
So this is an item whereby we give it some time for public comment. So if you do have a public comment, this is a time that you want to speak. And let me repeat this because I'm not sure if you were on when I read it. The Commission cannot act upon items presented during the public participation portion of the agenda. Individual Commission members may ask questions of the public, but are prohibited by the open meeting law for discussion or considering the item among themselves until the item is officially placed on the agenda. Each public comment or presentation will be limited to 5 minutes. So if you do have a public comment, you can go ahead and do so.
Okay, and just to clarify, specifically, this is on the item for the ancestral homelands, areas, indigenous nations, and original stewards.
This is just a public comment that you think that we need to know under Commissioner of Diversity Awareness. So if there's something you want to let us know, we cannot comment on it unless it's on the agenda. But if you would like to let us know something that is affecting, the public or yourself, this is a place to do so.
Okay. As always, just affordable housing.
Okay, is that the end of your comment?
For now, I'll say yes.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Chris,
Commissioner-
do you mind?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just for the record, sir, can I get a name from you just so I can enter your name into our public comment for
Yeah.
that you were the one
sure.
that made the comment?
Yeah. It's Jason Jones.
Thank you. And are you here representing yourself or some outside organization or group?
Today I would just say myself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm seeing somebody's hand is up. Georgiana Saski.
Hi. Yep, I'm just the new deputy city clerk. And so I just wanted to come watch the commission today, see what I can support you guys in. So I'm over in the clerk's office. So I'm just kind of here to watch and learn today. And if you guys need anything from me, I'm here now or after. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. All right, so we can go ahead and close this part of this item 5, public comment, and let's move on to the approval of the minutes, item 6. So we want to approve the minutes of 12/18/2024. Go ahead, Commissioner Reisenberg.
Hi, just 2 corrections. My name is misspelled in 2 places. It's Riesenberg, R-I-E, and it's incorrect under 1 and 2. And it's correct everywhere else. It's
Okay.
the typical.
That's item 1 and 2, the call to order and roll call.
Yes, I believe it's misspelled there.
Apologize. Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more corrections or editing for the minutes of 12/18/2024? All right, can I get a motion for the approval of minutes of 12/18/2024?
Commissioner Hernandez here. I'll go ahead and motion to approve the minutes. If I could get a second.
Commissioner Reason. Oh, go ahead,
Second.
Angelica.
I guess I'll officially second it for the minutes, Chris.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any nays? Any abstain? I'll abstain because I was not present. Any other abstain? All right, so we have the approval of our minutes, 12/18/2024, unless there's anything else I'm not seeing in the chat. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Chairwoman Kidd. I just wanted to recommend that at this point we move past item 7 to item 8A because we have Chief Connolly with us here and he has to take off at 2 o'clock. So we'd be able to skip to that item right now so that we can discuss with him and then come back to our proclamations afterwards when we do not need him present to discuss.
Absolutely. Let us go ahead and move to 8A. And thank you so much for that recommendation. Introduction and conversation with the Flagstaff Chief of Police. Welcome.
My honor. And Hey, I just so you know, my 2 o'clock, it's referenced the CARE program, which is such a innovative behavioral health program in partnership with the fire department in Chelsea. I told them I'm going to be a little late because this is a very important conversation. So I don't want us to feel rushed, Chris and everybody and Madam Chair on this as we move forward, because this is really important and I value the time here. So thank you for having me.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Chief of Police, Sean Connolly. I understand you have a presentation for us. Am I putting you out there or not?
Yeah, no, I'm not a huge PowerPoint guy at this point. I don't know, Chris, but one thing I just wanted to make sure I came and was able to introduce myself. Unless, Chris, we do have a PowerPoint that I'm unaware of.
No, sir, no PowerPoint. I can give you a real short introduction though. So I had a conversation with Chief Connolly about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, on our anti-camping ordinance. I came back to you all and just gave you some highlights of what that conversation was. And the chief has so graciously volunteered to appear before us today so that if there were any lingering questions on that topic or any other topics that may be relevant to his work here, that he was here to address this commission and answer them from all of us. So
Yeah.
I think I gave you all a good synopsis of what that conversation went last month when we met in December. So I'm not going to rehash all of that, but if anybody here has any questions on that topic or any others for Chief, I believe he'd be happy to talk to us about that topic or other ones affecting our community. So I would open it up to both the chief if he has anything he wants to say as an introduction, and to the commission if the commission has any questions for him while he's here.
Yeah.
And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, Chris, thanks. And I look forward to having this conversation, but I think it's really important too, since there are some really familiar faces. I think Manny, I think you see you everywhere on things. Good to see you. And then obviously Mindy, I'd seen you at or on some other things at the academy and stuff. So I appreciate everybody's time. I think, as we humanize each other and as we go, I want everybody to hear a little bit of my leadership approach to policing, a little bit about me, so that people can understand, because I believe in this philosophy. I just spoke to the board of the Mountain Line and talking about the importance of meaningful transportation and community to public safety earlier. And we talked about connecting before we convince, and especially on this topic of diversity and diversity awareness in society. I think it's really important that we humanize. And so a little bit about me. I was born in this city. My dad returned from the Vietnam War in 1966 and walked across the street from NAU into the Dairy Queen and met an 18-year-old girl there, asked her to a dance. They fell in love. I'm the byproduct of that love. They ended up moving to Tucson. I grew up down in Tucson. My dad was an underground copper miner and big union man down in Tucson. My mom was a special education school teacher. I spent just under 31 years in a city south of here in policing. I promise not to say the P word. I'm not here to Phoenix, Flagstaff. So this is a big life circle for me. But a couple things I just want everybody to hear, and this is what I'm going to instill in the culture of the Flagstaff Police Department. This is a very high functioning city, very intellectual and rich in its mindset, as is the police department. But as we move forward, I want to be very clear. We will be a self-assessing, self-correcting police department that engages in continual improvement. I teach nationally through the National Center of Civil and Human Rights out of Atlanta, Georgia, in partnership with an entity called the Auschwitz Institute for the Prevention of Genocide and Mass Atrocities. And one of the things we're teaching and starting to teach nationally is this concept of police officers looking at their role in community and society through the lens of what we really do is promote and protect civil and human rights. If you really look at how we should be applying the law and the Constitution, when we can get police officers to see through that lens, we see great reform and great progress. And so that'll be one of my goals here. The other thing, and this ties to this conversation on camping and some other things, is we have to be rooted in great policy. I'm in my 12th policy change. And I just spoke to the CJCC on this. As I move forward with more meaningful, impactful community policy, community has to have a voice. in the police department's policy moving forward. They are our greatest stakeholder in policy evolution or change. And so my promise to this commission and everybody is, as we move forward with meaningful policy, there will be a community voice. There will be a community voice in discipline. This police department does not have a discipline matrix yet. We're building it. It should have one. It should have a disciplinary review board that holds itself accountable, that is made up of citizens that provide recommendations to me on officer performance. These are some of the things moving forward. But great police departments are rooted in great policy, great training, wrapped around systems of accountability, and then wellness. I believe in a trauma-informed approach to community policing. And what that means is, before officers go into community, they must understand the trauma that the community has been exposed to, whether it's historical, environmental, or at the hands of systems. And so moving forward, one of the things is, when officers that are traumatized meet traumatized community, horrific things happened, like the horrific murder of George Floyd. And so these are the things we'll be working on as we move forward. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a mindset on where I am morally and ethically. This is your police uniform. This badge is yours. These stars are yours. We receive all our moral authority. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll take some questions, is I'm really challenging this department and the city and the community to walk with me in this journey of the ways of thinking of the past for this police department will not create solutions into the future. And I'm instilling that, and we're having this conversation daily in the Flagstaff Police Department. So thank you so much for the time. I value it immensely, and I'll take any questions anybody has. I think I see Mindy's hand up.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I appreciate your input on what your focus is on. And speaking of the community input, what does community input look like to you, or what are you planning, and how can we assist you with that?
Yeah, Commissioner, that's a wonderful question, and thank you. It looks like a whole host of things. And so first and foremost, you heard me talk about having a disciplinary review board. And so on that review board, I am going to request members of the community from a diverse cross-section of all walks of life, all communities, representing a lot of the different demographics that are here that are amazing in so many levels, to be part of that disciplinary review board. So they have a say in making recommendations to me on officers' performance and misconduct. The second thing, while in that other city, I stood up 12 advisory boards to the chief. And those 12 advisory boards are a cross section of every special interest group in a community. And so whether it's Latino, African American, LGBTQ, Native, cross disability, we will stand up these advisory boards that provide counsel, complex counsel and advice to me as we move forward. It also, in my experience, affords me a very direct, real-time voice. So if I need to call somebody in a particular community about a trend that I'm seeing that's public safety, likewise, it affords them to communicate back with me. The other thing I think that's really important is finding the pillars of community. I've been involved in standing up what I call a faith and justice initiative, where taking some of the most influential pastors of color in community and empowering them to have a conversation about problem solving and any of those types of issues. The other thing is I'm really youth centric. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth in this community to create connectivity with youth moving forward. I would love to see a youth citizens police academy in some form. I know there is the Citizens Police Academy, but I like one specifically connected to youth. So those are some of the basic initial conversations when I talk about community input. But like I told you, this community should have a say in policy, should have a say in discipline, should have a say in a lot of the operational needs that the community sees. You know, we're seeing a significant increase in violence this past year. as we get the numbers back in and we code them. So we're going to have some really meaningful conversations. I want to have conversations about immigration. You know, we recently had a community meeting over at the elementary school that had 300 residents in there, trying to demystify and talk about a lot of anxiety with this new administration about how law is going to be applied and moving forward. So that's what that looks like. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, Commissioner Reisenberg. And I thank you, Chief Connolly, for this conversation. I know you have lots of other things that you could have been doing right now, but you took that time off to speak with us. I really appreciate your transparency on your morals and your ideals, and also having the community in the midst of your leadership. I like to hear that. And I want to let you know, too, that I'm very interested in being a part of one of your advisory boards. I just put me down for anything. I am really interested in what we're doing for the community. And immigration is really dear to my heart. So hint, hint. So I am really, I want to be that voice for persons who feel that they don't have a voice. So you caught me on that. So thank you. And I hope this is not the only time we're going to hear you on our diversity awareness. You are welcome to come back at any time. And I really appreciate the time that you're spending with us. I'll open the floor again for a few more minutes for any other commissioners or anybody else who has questions for Chief Connolly. And have a good day.
Yeah. Hey, can I have a quick follow-up before we go to some questions on a couple things you said? Two things that I think are really important on the immigration. You know, I want to tell a quick story and where I am mentally with this topic. On the forefront of SB 1070 in West Phoenix, I put about 500 community residents into a community center in the Maryvale Community Center because I had tremendous concerns about fear. And I was really trying to create separation between what was the Phoenix Police Department and the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Because we were different organizations performing differently and treating people differently. And I thought we were on the right side of that line moving forward. But I asked this question. I have some broken Spanish skills, but I asked it through a translator. And I asked this room this, and this is where I can use your help. How many people in this room or in this community have been the victim or a witness of a crime, but for fear did not call us because they thought we would deport them or do some things? The whole room raised their hand. The whole room. And it buckled my knees. And that was an example to me that we had a lot of work to do. You know, so we have the U visa program here, where if you are the victim or a witness of a crime, you can, through your attorney, we will help you fill out a form or give some information about filling out a form so that your status is protected in some ways. So I think that I just wanted to make sure that you heard that from me personally on that matter. I think it's really important.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Now I'm more inspired than anything else because yes, people really hide their identity because of fear of deportation, and it could really be a hand in hand, and it could really be a good resource for the police department and also for the sheriff. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. I see a comment here in the chat from Commissioner Sanchez. Is there anything CODA can do to support the implementation of some of the things you talked about or you spoke about?
Yeah, wonderful. And I think as I've gone around the community in this kind of whirlwind of engagement, I've learned so much. And there are some huge gaps here, just to be completely honest. And I'll talk about a few of those. And that does have connectivity to this camping conversations. But, you know, I think I want everybody to have my contact information. You know, I think the answers are not in the minds of police chiefs or in the corner office of government buildings. I think those answers are in the communities and the rooms around us. So what I'm asking everybody to do is kind of match my energy and my newness. And I get it, you know, coming into a new community, a lot of you have been down some of these roads that I'm starting. And I just want to make sure I listen aggressively and hear through all of you as we move forward in this first year here, as I kind of set some culture and tone. Because I'll tell you this, Whether you're a policing organization, a Fortune 500 company, culture and organizations can eat policy and direction for lunch. And I know, Manny, you and I talked about this a little bit at the CJCC, and this is where I need help as I set tone. It does not go unnoticed by me that anybody know when this police department was founded? Yeah, 1894. In the history of this police department, they've never had a chief come from the outside. So think about that.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. And so I think in that same thing, there's a tremendous obligation and an opportunity for all of us, because what is natural in human psychology is for us to become parts of identity groups. And we can start all to think the same and justify things, cultures of justification. And I really want to make sure that we pivot on some of this stuff. And this is where I'll need your help. So Chris has my contact. Some of you have already been in touch with me. You know where, and this is, I would like to go out to lunch. I would like to go out and meet, and I want to meet people where they're at. So I think that's the greatest thing for now as we move forward. And I think I see a question here. Do you have a plan or need for mental health education? Always. You know, as we look at some of the nexes with that are the root causes of disorder and crime in our communities, I'm going to always focus back on the social determinants of health. You know, whether it's nutrition, education, disease. We cannot be in the business of incarcerating disease. And addiction and behavioral health are some of these things. And this is my point that I was going to make. I need help. This is an underserviced community. Right now, the guidance center is full, and my officers don't have an option on a behavioral health call to take somebody somewhere. And sometimes that only option is incarceration. I don't want to be that way. Right now, there's no detox center in this community. And when we look at the violent crime in this community, and I'm getting these numbers together, 50% of the crime has a nexus of alcohol intoxication. Think about if we had a really more vibrant detox facility here. The fentanyl epidemic, I just had an overdose the other night. Fentanyl continues to be a problem. We had 2 Narcan saves by officers in the last 48 hours. So do we have enough medically assisted treatment in this community? Because I believe in my work out in Boston on some other things that medically assisted treatment is the cure for opioid addiction moving forward. So I will tell you, part of our plan moving forward is a really vibrant wellness program for the officers that's not existing here. And then what we're currently doing, I'm going to talk about 2 things. Right now, I believe in diversion and deflection. I set up a program in the other place, and we have it here now where in a relationship with behavioral health company, Solari, when a behavioral health call comes into the 911 center, instead of sending it to an officer, because there's really no other options in society right now, we deflect it to the behavioral health company when it doesn't involve a crime or somebody's safety. They then send out a crisis team. I mean, and we're in the thousands of deflected calls. The other thing, I believe in a good coach on the floor. So you have a game plan, but you need a coach on the field. And so we have a clinician now that is on the floor over here at the 911 center with the 911 dispatchers, helping coach them to deflect these behavioral health calls. So law enforcement is not the front line on behavioral health issues. If there are other ideas or things that we want to talk about, I'm more than happy to sit down, as I've been involved in implementing a lot of behavioral health related programs moving forward. I hope that answered that question.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate you again for taking time to be here. I know the question I'm about to ask, we've already discussed personally, but on the record and in front of CODA, bringing it back to the anti-camping ordinance that we have here in Flagstaff. What is going to be your approach on that ordinance, and what you're going to be directing your officers?
Wonderful question. You know, and when we look at that, so let's break this down intelligently a little bit. You know, I was on the front lines of being sued by the ACLU to not do anything on this matter, and then later sued by community whose businesses were losing, homes were being overrun, and then having to find a solution in the middle. So sued by both ends. Do something, don't do something as a police department. And so, you know, we had the Boise decision for many years that helped guide us on if there was not enough suitable beds in a community, You couldn't apply some of the camping ordinances that you saw and laws around communities in America. Recently, we had a decision come out of the Supreme Court that changed that. But I'm going to tell you right now, this police department's approach is we will always lead with services. You will not see this police department out aggressively, proactively, on our own, independently, looking to dismantle and break down camps, and throw away people's property, and put them in jail. Now, I will tell you, when a business, we will respond to calls for service. So when a business owner or a private residence has had a camp or something that's starting to impact their quality of life, or what we do see are pockets of increased violent crime in and around some of these camps, we will take a lead with services approach. And what I mean by that is, this is where I need help. I want, I would love a Office of Homeless Solutions in the county or the city as we move forward. And what we will do is, knowing that camping ordinance is there, but what we will do is attempt to connect those people to services first and foremost over a long runway. And so, for example, we have the CARE program through Taros and the fire department. And the last data I looked at, officers and in partnership with them, they deflected about 1,400 calls. And so that is an opportunity. And I know there's the ambassador program we're working on in the downtown footprint for this population, where a clinician ambassador will engage first and foremost to work on that. So that's going to be the approach of the Flagstaff Police Department. I want everybody to know that, that we are not going to be proactively going out there and dismantling camps. But when we hear of these camps through citizens 911 calls or increased acts of violence, or at times our officers do a great job of knowing people in this community, and it's not a huge community, so a lot of times they know people in some of these encampments that are wanted for violent crime, and there's a victim associated with that. We're going to have that. The other really important part of this, as you watched nationally, is the challenge with property. I want to let this room know that we're going to respect people's property, no matter what form it's in, whether it's in a shopping cart or in a tent or in a bag. And so we will impound all that. And that, it can become very arduous. I watched a pallet the other day, literally a pallet of property be impounded on an individual that was wanted for a violent crime. And so we will respect people's property. I think there's room for growth in partnership with the city and county and how we manage that property, that personal property. But that, in a nutshell, Manny, I hope I answered your question on that, on how we're going to handle that.
You did. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I do have a question, Jason, Jay. Sorry, so for that essentially accountability board that you mentioned, do you have like a rough date for when you'd like to implement something like that?
Yeah, I love the way your mind works. Thank you for the question. I do. One of the things we talk about in change organizations is that everybody understand the theory of change. It's not the beginning or the end of the change that's most important. It's the middle and the ability for those the changes being thrusted upon to consume it in a meaningful way. So as I embark upon this, my goal is by the end of February to have at least the first two boards as we move forward. Most likely the Native American Indigenous Peoples Board and the Cross Disability one. But I'm open if there are representatives who want to advocate for the standing up of another board sooner. I'm willing to have that conversation. My goal is to have these up and running at the end of February, because I want to make sure we get a jump start on crime. I don't want people to forget our role in creating public safety. And so we will be releasing, it's in its draft form, a crime plan for the Flagstaff Police Department. In that crime plan, we'll list the duties and responsibilities of every member of the organization and the strategy with goals on how we collaboratively reduce victimization, because we will be a victim-centric police department. So I hope I answered your question in the fact that by the end of February, it's Jason, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yes, sir. If you have some ideas on on an advisory board, there is this conversation. When I got here, we had what we call a community liaison committee that had a cross section of everybody all in one kind of group. And I think that's cool. And it does add value, and it had lost some energy prior to my arrival. But what I've learned in all these years with community is you need to give those special interests their own unique private voice in certain arenas, so that it's not influenced by other voices. Then we can all come back to a more collaborative, bigger voice and air some other things out. So that's my goal.
Cool. I think the two groups that you mentioned cover a lot. I would just say for the Indigenous board, there's just one person I would recommend reaching out to if she's not aware of it. Fawn Toya. She just has a
Yes.
lot of experience with that. And then
Wonderful.
yeah. And then I'm sorry, I just had a question on this. It's kind of on that as well. Because like you said, a lot of time culture eats policy.
Yeah.
And how do I say this? I'll just give my personal experience. Right, I've experienced with one of the sergeants unethical detainment. They didn't announce themselves at all. Just grabbed my girlfriend out of nowhere. So much so that I literally didn't know who was behind her. I grabbed the person's hand because I was like, "Who was grabbing my girlfriend from behind?" Right. Literally, she wasn't acting in any kind of way that was aggressive. The only thing we were trying to do in that moment, we hadn't even know that the police were there. And just to preface this, the only thing she did, the reason that they were called was because she spit at a car. She spit at a car because they were being extremely rude. So apparently that sergeant thought it was enough to like come up and grab her and like cause this whole aggressive scenario. Not only that, but that we were helping our friend try to get into a car because she was completely passed out and needed medical attention. And instead of taking any kind of concern to that, they actually made the car that we were trying to get the person in so they could get to the hospital. They made them leave. So it's just hard to like see like a person like that truly
Yeah.
changing because of policy. So I don't know. I just wanted to see like how you're planning to address like those people that are going to say like, oh yeah, this sounds good, let's avoid these lawsuits, let's
Yeah.
I'm on page with this. But when it comes down to like, oh, that person's brown, they probably don't have legal representation, I can be a little bit more aggressive with them.
I really appreciate that. And you heard me talk about first. I'm sorry that you had that experience. One of the things I tell everybody in community, you have the ability to reach out to us. And anytime something like that happens, whether it's an officer or a sergeant, I want to speak to your lieutenant. We will freeze that. And then you now have your connectivity with me and this organization, whether you hit the phone number on our website and some other things, but we're going to build some additional conduits for exactly this. You heard me say great policy wrapped in great training. There's we can't give an officer a new policy on a Friday and hold them accountable on a Monday. You don't become a great quarterback by throwing the ball once or twice. And so we have to get reps in this training moving forward. But then you heard me say systems of accountability. And what do those look like moving forward? Internally for us, what we have is a professional standards unit that per policy and follow policy and hold officers accountable. I need to ensure that community has trust in that. And so when you heard me talk about now allowing community to have a voice in the disciplinary process, that is exactly that. Having a discipline matrix that is open for the public to look at, that is that. Right now, if a certain misconduct or allegation happens, there's no matrix to where that fits, so we're predictable and consistent with community. So those are those things moving forward. And I just want you to know, when I talk about, and I don't want to ask the race of anybody or if this was but my point is, when we have these advisory boards set up and these liaisons for each one of these communities, this is exactly where that kind of information can flow into me. Where I get something, I had a great relationship with Reverend Tillman and the NAACP down in Phoenix. And when he heard something in the neighborhood, he'd call me and I'd look into it. So this is why we need to establish these. And then lastly, I'm going to tell you, I want you to hold me accountable. And so when you hear of these things, my promise to you is based on facts and the law and policy. You will see me hold ourselves accountable. And there may be times I look at you and I go, hey, that here, look at the body worn camera with me. It happened a lot differently. That's why I love the cameras. But that's part of the process. And I hope I answered your question, Jason.
Yeah, that does answer. Thank you. And then I'm sorry, you said for direct contact to you, what's the best means for that?
Chris has my email. I think, Chris, we can share my email on there. And we can get that out to you in the community. I'm totally transparent with that. One of the things that, you know, to be a great leader, you got to be effectively managed. And then the other part of that is I have an obligation to empower team. And so I want people to not only have relationships with me, but I want, we just did this on CAF Country with Jeff Kennedy in the morning, talking about human trafficking. It's not the chief going and talking. It's the detective doing the work and the community member and the nonprofit that's doing the work. So I want you to have other relationships in the department so we can establish that for you, Jason.
Appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, Chief Conley, I don't know how much more time you have with us, but I just want to say that you did mention about a youth advisory board, and I just wanted to know if you have tapped into FUSD, NUA, NAU, sorry, and also CCC, if you're already having conversations with them. And that is really great of having a youth advisory because they think different to us who are not youths. And I think they have all the answers. I think so.
Yeah, no, I love it. I have had some great relationships with all three of those entities. I'm looking to do some more meaningful things working with the school district moving forward. We have our training academy that operates out of CCC, and Dr. Eric Heiser over there has been great. And who was the third organization you mentioned?
NAU.
Oh yeah, of course, Missy and everybody over there. I recently spoke at Professor Perez's criminal justice, and I want to tell everybody here, to humanize this mission and its role, because so many of our youth are getting their information about this profession from their video games, their movies, and their algorithms, and it's not necessarily healthy. And I want us to go out and engage in those classrooms and do all that. So if you know of opportunities for me or this police department to humanize and demystify this profession moving forward, I want to seize on those opportunities. So thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm here with you. Okay.
Sorry, last question for me, just based on the anti-camping, and I know that's been around for a while. It's just kind of like from my understanding, I guess a campaign to reinforce it maybe. I know you talked about like how you're looking at other like resources that they can go to, but if people are at capacity, there's only so much that can be done. I'm just not familiar if there already is something like in the works, but like I guess in your opinion, what is the best initiative that's being worked on by either the city or the county to mitigate that issue as far as like when people truly don't have a place to stay, like and everywhere is filled up, what's the next step that you see?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just want to be clear, Jason, because I don't want my words to be misconstrued and you get out and I am not here to partake in a campaign to reinforce this. The one caveat I want to make sure everybody understands is, there was the Boise ruling that created challenges for camping enforcement across America if there was not beds available. And most of the communities, the beds were always full. So that's why you saw, I think, the epidemic break out. With the most recent ruling, they're saying that no, those ordinances can be enforced absent the beds. But I just want to be clear on that. Great question. Having built some really good programs in other places, I think moving forward, has everybody here gone and done a tour over at the shelter? If you haven't been to the shelter, go to the shelter and meet Ross and get some insight onto what she's attempting to accomplish and the needs of this community. I love the concept of us converting some of these hotels into some of this, as we try to deal with transitional housing to affordable housing. I think we need to continue to expand on that. Those are those types of programs. I would love to see the guidance center increase its capacity. You heard me talk about no detox center, but I think the program for me coming together is us sitting down and understanding the flow of an individual through our systems and then getting the user experience. I think sometimes we forget that, right, Jason? On some levels, we forget the user experience. And so I think starting with Ross and a lot of this, especially when we talk about the unhoused and those experiencing homelessness, but we have to have some options for them, because there are some common nexes of why that individual is in that situation. And I think that's where we lay our head moving forward collectively. If you know of things that need more energy or some additional advocacy, and I'm all about that. I'll participate with you. And I'll bring some additional perspective for the others, whether we're trying to raise funding or create more synergy with that.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, out of those that you mentioned, like which do you think has the most potential to kind of mitigate some of the issues as far as
Yeah. So in the brief time here, and then I was involved in the design of the human services campus down in the other place. And so I think one of the things where I see the most impact is when we look at some of the diseases that are impacting people that result in being homeless. So for the first two that come to mind are addiction and behavioral health. And when you look at those commonalities, and those would help me also fight violent crime, to be completely honest. When we look at those two things, is this community resourced adequately to capacity, knowing we're a border community, knowing we have all these complexities of this, are we resourced properly to deal with addiction and behavioral health? And I think a lot of us know the answer. So there's where we should lay our head. When you start, I've seen success when you start being able to provide more meaningful options for those two things, you start to see improvement in those suffering from not having a house or having to live on the street.
Gotcha. So yeah, I know Pathways is doing a lot of stuff with that, and I know a lot of times they're even able to provide transportation to some places when it comes to some of those different things. So I don't know, just because it sounded like you said you're also looking for suggestions as well. I feel like a lot of those guys have a genuine, because a lot of them have lived experience, and so they have a genuine passion for trying to help these people out. So I think probably going to find a lot of the answers there. They're just so good at connecting with those different things. So maybe they have some more solutions, because I still don't, and this isn't, any fault of your own, but I'm still not hearing a good solution for what is going to mitigate the issues. I just hear like, these are things that we need to work on. Like, okay, but what is the main thing that we are working on to do that?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And one of the things I'll tell you, there's been some recent research out of some different research entities. I'll challenge community to not look at law enforcement for these solutions. Shifting shared responsibility. I think for so many years, law enforcement, I believe the 911 system is an antiquated way of dealing with people. We didn't never define emergency. Everybody just calls 911 for their problems. And so one of the things that came out of the pandemic and the horrific murder of George Floyd was community saying, hey, we want law enforcement doing less. And I was like, yes, some of us have been saying that for a long time. Get us out of that business in a lot of ways. So I challenge everybody to shift and share on this topic and not look for law enforcement for a lot of the solutions related to the root causes that cause people to then be the subject of a 911 call, where then I'm kind of constrained. I will tell you, you mentioned transportation. As I've gone around this community, and there's a reason I spoke to the Metro and I want to call it Valley Metro, but to the Mountain Line Board this morning. As I've gone around the community and talked to some individuals experiencing homeless and addiction and some of their challenges, one of their greatest impediments to being healthy again and staying out of the system, the justice system, is transportation. Right now, there's no shuttles back to the reservation. There may be shuttles to the casino, but there's no shuttles back to get people who become stranded, sick, and involved in crime here. So I've challenged people to have that conversation. I don't have a mountain line, bus line that goes down in by the shelter and has a bus stop. So we have all these people walking and biking. I've got people being struck by the train. So let's have a conversation in community about more bus lines that are meaningful and in the right places. Let's have conversations about shuttling, as 50% of all of our violent crime and the suspects and the victims are from tribal nations. And so let's work collectively on the front end of this issue. So I love your mindset on transportation. There's a lot to do as we move forward. And then again, the detox center, you know, if we had a world-class $1 million detox center that Community Bridges would build like they have down in the valley, that can house 50 people at a time, where we can get them off the street and reduce exposure to crime, that would be a great thing too.
Gotcha.
Hey, Chief,
Really
thank
good.
you for all of your comments. I want to go ahead and thank you for your time. I know you're about 25 minutes past your deadline already. So again, thank you for being here, staying late for us. We really appreciate it. And you're always
Anytime.
welcome back.
I wish you all the best, and I'm honored to be here. I respect your mission immensely. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Connolly.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and Chris, when you have a chance, I know you're going to share Chief Connolly's contact information with us, and that will be greatly appreciated. Okay, so we want to jump back up to 7A proclamations. And I know we did get 2 drafts of the proclamation, one for MLK Day and one for Black History Month. So we want to start with MLK Day proclamation draft.
And Chairwoman Kidd, I can give just a brief background.
Go ahead.
On this. So these are the 2 proclamations that we're hoping that council will be able to read before we meet again in February. Right now we have the MLK Day proclamation set for next Tuesday, which is the day after MLK Day, but we've arranged for the mayor to be present to read that at the breakfast that the NEU Office of Inclusion is holding. So the other component of this, and it'll apply to the other proclamation as well, is that we're trying to involve community groups in our proclamations a little more than we have in the past. So I shared this draft with the NEU Office of Inclusion and Dr. Mallett and Ms. Lewis and the folks over there for their thoughts on it. And they did not have any edits they wanted to it. So this is the opportunity for the commission to take a look at that draft, decide if they would like any changes to the language or anything else, and then we'll be looking for a motion, hopefully, to approve that and send it to council for next week. Thank you.
I think Dr. Mallett is on here. I think I just saw his name too. Dr. Mallett, do you want to add anything else before we have that motion?
So for the MLK proclamation, I don't see anything. I don't see anything in the content that needs to be changed. But the only thing that needs to be changed is at the bottom. It says dated this day of February 2025, where it should probably be January 2025. And we already have the date there correct at the bottom from what Mayor Daggett's going to read. Other than that, I know Ms. Bernadine looked at it very thoroughly, and I support if she has no edits. But that's just the only change that I see in the proclamation. It's just the date where it says dated.
Thank you. Did any other commissioner take a look at it and have any comments or edits?
No edits from me. Thank you.
No edits from me as well. Looks good.
And I see Commissioner Sanchez said no edits from her. Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion? Actually, do you want the motions separately, Chris, for one for MLK and one for Black History Month, or you want them both together?
I don't have a preference on that one. If you'd like to talk about the other one, doing them
Yeah.
separately may facilitate that better, but either one would be valid.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's also talk about Black History Month proclamation. If all the commissioners got a chance to take a look at it, if anybody have any comments, any edits that should be made. The floor is open.
So I'm just looking at this, and I guess the one thing that I would also say about this one in particular is um, I, I don't want to minimize. I believe in collective voice. And so the mere fact that this committee is also talking about the proclamation and moving forward, I think that we have to be able to acknowledge that in here as well. So I think in the next to last paragraph, it says that the council continues its commitment to understanding the Black lived experience through the adoption of the Live Black Experience Strategic Plan. Somewhere in there, um, well, I guess you have it at the bottom, but I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging the other entities from the Commission of Diversity Awareness. But I'm sorry, I see that in the last paragraph now that we're acknowledging the Commission on Diversity Awareness, the African Diaspora Advisory Council. So scratch everything I said. That wasn't even worth a damn. So sorry about that. I just want to make sure we're acknowledging everybody.
This is Commissioner
Go ahead.
Riesenberg. I just want to check on one thing, and it may be correct. But in that next to the last paragraph, it says it recommends the designation of February 2023 as Black History Month. Was that when we first started doing it, or do we need to change that for 2025?
Commissioner Riesenberg will want to change that for 2025. I apologize.
Okay.
That's just on my end. We'll make sure that date is correct. My apologies on that.
Great, thank you.
And Madam Chair, members of the commission, I also wanted to say in this one that in our efforts to include other community groups in these types of things, we're looking to have this proclamation read the first, not the first, it'll be February 4th at council. Yeah, the first Tuesday of February. So a different date than the first proclamation. And it will also be read at a luncheon held by the Southside Community Association on February 1st. So we've arranged to have that one read at a different event that's hosted by a different group than the NU Office of Inclusion, just as an effort to continue to try to involve different groups in our community, and that is the group that oversees implementation of our Live Black Experience project. So we felt they were a good one to work with on that one. That's all I have in this one. And Dr. Mallett, I see there was a question for you here about RSVPs for that MLK Day event. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah. So and then I'm hopeful, Chris, in the correspondence that Destiny sent, that there is some information about how to RSVP. If it's not, then I will make sure that you get that information today. You'll get that information probably within the next 30, 40 minutes of so then people can RSVP. I guess if I have a moment, I think it's important for this event that Flagstaff does show up and be in attendance for this event. As mentioned before, this is the only MLK program that's north of Phoenix, and so I know some people may think it's a day off, but it's also a time to be able to come in and celebrate and to acknowledge. And in our community, if we're not showing up, then we can't expect others to show up as well. And so I really do encourage everybody on this on this commission to please be in attendance. Your presence would be great. I think it's important for students to see your presence, to know that there are committees such as this that exist, that's talking about and having these discussions and different things like that. So I'm very hopeful, and for myself and the president and the president's cabinet, we want to definitely invite every single one of you to this event on Monday.
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. Thank you so much, Dr. Mallet, reminding me about that. I remember last year you had a flyer and you had shared it with us at CODA.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I believe I shared that flyer with the commission. If I didn't, I am happy to forward that again. But is it possible to confirm whether or not that was received by the commission, just so I know whether or not I'm getting a couple nods, it looks like. So okay. If you don't have that flyer, please reach out to me, or if you're looking for the link, I'm happy to share it again with you. Yeah.
All right. So with all discussions, may I have a motion to approve the draft for both proclamations, MLK proclamations and Black History Month?
This is Commissioner Riesenberg, so moved.
May I have a second?
Commissioner Sanchez here. I
This is
second
Commissioner
that.
Gibler. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, hearing none, the ayes have it, and we approved the draft proclamations for MLK Day and Black History Month. Thank you all for participating. All right, so let's move on to 8B, Rainbow Pavement Exhibit. And I do think we have, do we have our representation of Pride, Flag Pride online?
It's not Flagstaff Pride. It's me, Alicia Henry, and I'll be representing Flagstaff Queer Collective, and I also have Ben Nicholas with me. It's the Flagstaff Queer Coalition that we're representing. We've been meeting with the mayor about this, so that's why I think Chris had reached out to Joan.
Chairman Kidd, if I can just give a short background on who we have with us today and where we're at in our conversations, so everyone's caught up on this. Last month, we had Martin Tees from Flagstaff Pride in attendance. I don't see him here today, but I think that we can forge forward with our conversation. Our goal was to bring in other groups that have been interested in this topic. So I was able to get contact information for for Ben and Alicia here, and invited them on behalf of the is it the Queer Collective or Queer Coalition? I apologize. I know it's
We're doing both.
Okay.
So
There
Ben
we
and I
go.
are part of the Queer Collective, but then we are also joining together other organizations to create a coalition.
Okay, perfect. So our goal was to try to bring everyone together, because we know that there's a lot of groups, including our own organization here at CODA, who all share a common interest in this project. So it's been, to this point, it's been discussed in a few different rooms, but we have seldom had everyone together on the same page and in the same place for it. So our goal is to have everyone here together. so that we could begin talking about first possible locations, and knowing what the engineering team has already told us about what is allowed and what we can do, and then to begin looking at ways to move forward with funding it and getting approvals and that sort of thing. So we have had representation from Flag Pride here the last few meetings. I don't see them here today, and unfortunately, Commissioner Darling, who sits on their board, is also absent today. But I think that we've at least been present for those conversations, and we can attempt to advocate for their interests in it, knowing what they've said and asked for already. So, but we'd love to hear from Alicia and Ben, and then continue that conversation to see what next steps we can all take on the same page. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So originally I was presenting when I presented a year ago. I presented on behalf of Flagstaff Pride. Ben and I are no longer with that organization, so I don't actually have the PowerPoint that we originally presented with, but that data is all still accurate. So Ben is more on the engineering side of things and is dealing with crosswalks and things like that, and the actual talking with the engineering side. But also when we originally presented, it wasn't always about the crosswalk itself. Sometimes we would be interested in having just the middle of the intersection painted, so the crosswalk is still maintaining those black and white or white stripes. But I think I'm not exactly sure why we're here. Because it's not going anywhere yet. Has engineering approved it? Has legal signed off on anything at this time?
I can chime in on my last conversation with the city traffic engineer, Jeff Bauman. The federal standards for crosswalks have recently been updated to allow for this to actually happen. And so for the city of Flagstaff's perspective, the state DOT needs to adopt the federal standard first, and then they can move to adopt that. So it's a long way out before the city would allow for things like this to happen on city roads. Metro Plan had mentioned that if it's not actually a traffic control device like crosswalk striping or stop bars, if it's just median striping or in parking, no parking zones, that there's more flexibility on what we could do with that. So if we're set on a crosswalk, we're kind of sitting on our hands right now until things move at the state level. But if we have other ideas, that seems like it's more feasible right now.
Like I said, in my original presentation to CODA, I did include some graphics of intersection art rather than crosswalks as well. So I think we have to wait for legal and the engineers to sign off on this in the meantime. But we did meet with Council Member Sweethouse and Mayor Daggett, and they were all on board for this. So I think it's just getting the wheels greased at the right levels.
So I do have a quick question. Alicia, thank you so much for being here. Also,
Yeah.
Ben, Happy New Year. I know there was a time when we got the engineering information back after your first presentation, and I know there was a discussion on using other parts than a crosswalk. I know we were thinking of other non-traffic roads. I know there were one type we were speaking about not alleyways, but like a connection to other places downtown and not where we have city traffic. I'm wondering if that is also part of your proposal, or, if that's something you would like to look into.
I'm happy with any representation for the community. I think we'd want to get other organizations involved and have a community voice if we were not wanting to do like an actual crosswalk. But again, I raised the concern last time that the city was gung-ho for only white crosswalks, white striped crosswalks, but we have the brick crosswalk in front of Heritage Square, which does not meet their guidelines, and that one went over swimmingly. So yeah, I'm up for anything. I just want representation for the community. It's just a matter of what what we can get. Ben, do you have any other feedback on that on our side of things?
No, I mean, I'm kind of with you that I think anything that's in a visible central location is a beautiful thing for our community. And if it's easier to get through engineering, I am all about that.
Yes. So we're in the mindset, I'm sorry, a mindset of low cost and representation at the same time. And so however we can get that to happen, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, so one thing you may have missed, Alicia and Ben, I know when Chris had gone on a mission to find out if this could be done just by being approved by council, and that is in fact the case. That if it's approved by council, then they supersede the city engineers. So it just depends on the appetite of council as well. So I'm not sure if you were keyed in onto that information yet or not.
I think we did know that. I think that's part of the reason why we approached the mayor and one of the meetings that we had with her is to bend her ear a little bit and some of the council members to see if they were on board, and everybody we met with was. So if that's a route we can take, I would love to.
I think
It's
the
just about
city
funding.
attorney, I think the city attorney is kind of the sticking point there, that his advice is to stick with what the traffic department is beholden to.
Chris, do you have any update on that?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kidd, and members of the commission. I can just report that in my conversations with the traffic engineering team and the city attorney's office, what they expressed to me was that until such a time as the uniform manual on traffic control devices is updated to explicitly allow these, that their offices would make a recommendation to council not to approve it. Obviously, council has the ability to decide what to do, but they did confirm that they would recommend not to approve such an installation.
And that has been updated, correct, Ben? It's just now waiting on the state level.
Right. Yep. So for just background, I'm a transportation engineer. That's what I do for a living. The federal guidelines have been updated, and then the DOT for Arizona's DOT has not adopted them yet as their current practice. They go through a review phase before they adopt it. And then the city engineering department won't adopt it for their own until the state level is adopted.
So my understanding here is that we are waiting for the state to adopt it before the city adopt it.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So if this is okay with the rest of the commission and Chris, with your guidance, should we go ahead and put this item in our next agenda? I think you're on mute. I'm sorry.
I'm happy to keep this on our agenda in future months. I think that's been our plan, is to continue this conversation as things progress. I think my question would be, is there a certain objective?
Chris, sorry, I think you're cutting out.
I can try to.
Okay, I can hear you now.
I'll turn off my camera, see if that comes through a little better. I'm happy to keep it on the agenda. I think my question would be, is there a certain objective that the commission would like to accomplish with the conversation today? And is there a certain objective we would like to accomplish the next time we meet as well, just to kind of have in mind what we're trying to get to, so that we can not just keep having the same conversation over and over again.
Well, one of the objectives, I was thinking, I know you mentioned that Flag Pride was going to be on here. I'm not sure if they were going to give us some extra information, but based on what I'm hearing from the Queer Collective, from Alicia and also from Ben, is that they want to be part of that voice, to make sure this happens. But it seems like we have to wait for the state and then the city. So I don't want it to be forgotten. And other commissioners, please correct me. I don't want it to be forgotten, so I wanted to go in the at least on the next agenda so that we can give Flag Pride a chance to continue what they were coming to speak with us on, and also to invite the Queer Collective to be on the next in the next meeting too. I just don't want it to be lost because it's not done yet. So at least for the next agenda.
Certainly we can do that. And then just to clarify where our discussion was at last time, we discussed our options are essentially two on this. We can wait to see if the city or state adopts those new engineering standards that would allow us to place a crosswalk in the lanes of traffic, or we can look for alternative locations that are not on a roadway and try to pursue that in the meantime. I do not have a timeline for when the state is looking to adopt those new federal requirements and when we'd be able to do that first option. So I guess the first decision is which of those two we want to go with, and then if we are going to look at alternate sites, what are the ones that we're interested in? And if we want to talk about that today, we can. If we want to talk about that next month, we can as well.
I think the latter will be, and I'll leave it open to the commissioners too. And for some reason, I don't know if it's me overthinking this. I just thought that Flag Pride was coming with other options since we were kind of waiting for the crosswalk thing to resolve on a state level. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're moving forward, I would really like the other options. Other commissioners, you want to weigh in?
This has been with Flagstaff Queer Collective again. Just we had identified a couple of other alternate locations other than the crosswalk. I just wanted to run them by city traffic before kind of drawing up a schematic of how it could work and presenting it to community.
We would also like to apologize for, we were only notified of this, yesterday, 2 days ago. So this was a short notice for Ben and I.
That's okay. Thank you for being here because I know everybody else is busy too. So thank you.
And I am okay. I know I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but it seems like we're at a standstill waiting for like council and other organizations. So this doesn't have to be a monthly conversation, I think, right now. Ben and I are thinking like this is going to be a long drawn out process. So if we need to postpone it for like 2 months at a time or something like that, so people can get the ducks in the row and council member can talk to their attorneys and we can talk to engineering and things like that. We're okay with, we don't have to do this monthly. The crosswalk doesn't have to be on the agenda monthly. But I don't want to speak on behalf of other organizations. So we would like to partner with other organizations to make sure that the community gets what they need.
Thank
I
you.
think one thing that's important for me at least. I don't want to speak on behalf of the rest of CODA, but would be we brought you into this conversation because we wanted your input, and if the Queer Coalition and Flag Pride could come to an agreement on what you want to see done, then we can make a recommendation to council based on your collective agreement. So I think that would be important for us to hear and know exactly the direction you want us to move in.
That sounds great. I'll reach out to Flagstaff Pride so we can set something up.
And thank you, Ms. Henry, just because we're doing our best to get folks in the same room here. We started with the groups that we knew had conversations with the city on this in the past. Do you have names or contacts for other folks that you think would be good to bring into this conversation? And I only ask just because I can only do the best that I can to bring folks in. And I don't know everybody, but we want to do our best. So are you able to share with me other folks that you'd like me to invite?
I don't know that there is anybody else. I think Joan, who you sent the email to originally, has forwarded it to everybody within the coalition right now. So I think any organization that deals with LGBTQIA community members would be a good person to have a voice, a good organization to have a voice. But I don't know. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Thank you very much. Just wanted
Yeah.
to ask because that's how you build that network. And then the other point other thing I wanted just to extend to you was because CODA is attempting to host this conversation, I'm available as a staff person to attempt to facilitate some conversations with both our attorney's office and our transportation engineering team. So do you have any other sites that you've looked at that you would like me to run by them just preliminarily to see if they have any initial thoughts on it before we come back and discuss which ones we actually want to move forward with?
That would be a Ben thing, I think. I made my suggestions in the original presentation in February or March of 2024.
Yeah, let me run my ideas by a couple of other people and then I'll email it to you in a few days, Chris, if that works for you.
Okay, phenomenal. And then, yeah, we'll do our best to try to bring Flagstaff right into it as well, so that we can all be on the same page. And just from my memory of this commission, we had a meeting a few months ago where our alternative and an alternative that we threw out just as a possible idea was Aspen Alley, which is that area that goes from Route 66 to where that new brick crosswalk is, in Heritage Square in front of Sasoba and Flagstaff Brewery and in that area where it would be outside of lane of traffic. But that's not to say that we have any preferences or anything, just one that we threw out. So you have that history.
Thank you. And I did email you just shortly before this this call, but would you be willing to email me the presentation that I created? I seem to have gotten rid of it and since I left the previous board, so I don't have the information or the data that I collected.
I should be able to find that for you and send it back to you as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for all the discussions. Chris, do you want us to a motion to move this item to the future, or we just go ahead and move it?
I don't need a motion on this. Just
Okay.
a informal direction is sufficient for me to keep it on an agenda. And then I can also try to make sure that I get confirmations beforehand from both Alicia and Ben with the Queer Coalition and with a representative from Flagstaff Pride, so that we can ensure when we meet again that everyone's all in the same room and we can have that productive conversation.
Awesome, great. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move 8B to our next the Rainbow Pavement exhibit or Rainbow Pavement discussion to our next meeting. Thank you so much, Alicia and Ben, for your time here. Good to see you, Alicia, again.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and joining us and having this discussion.
Take care, everybody.
All right. So we're going to move to 8C, updates on working groups. Do we have any updates for our working groups?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. There's no update on the oral history library working group. We did not meet this month. There's still some things that Felicia needs to figure out internally. Chris, did you hear back from them by any chance?
Chairman Kidd, Commissioner Sanchez, thank you. So we had some conversations internally with staff about the right way to go about this. I finally got kind of some direction from our city clerk and our city manager last week on how they would like me to proceed with talking with our library over this. And I've gotten the green light to go ahead and begin having those conversations. I have not done that yet. So I don't have an update yet, but we've discussed kind of at the high level of what our understanding of the issue is. And I will be reaching out to probably Heidi Hansen and Linda Tilson. Sorry, I trouble with that name for some reason. Over the next couple of weeks, and I don't know that I'll have a whole lot of update by next month. I hope to. Actually, I will not, because I will not be here next month, but I'll get to that. But I hope to have some information for you all before March on this, and I'm sorry that it's taken that while to get back to you.
Thank you so much, Chris, just for making sure that everything is kosher. If you wanted to CC me on those interactions in case something does come through while you're out of office next month, I'd be happy to keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other working groups update? Okay, hearing none, we move on to 8D, updates from council liaison. Is council person House on here? I haven't seen her.
She was
I
here
think
at
she
some
noted that
point.
she wasn't able to make it. Like it didn't pop up on her calendar or something.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw something, but I wasn't sure if she was in or out. Okay. Chris, do you
I
have
think she joined us
anything? Do you
shortly.
have anything from her?
I have not heard anything from her specifically. I did pass along an email from her to all of you about an event taking place on MLK Day to build small libraries. So that is another event taking place that she wanted me to pass along for your consideration. Aside from that, I thought I saw her join during the conversation with Chief Connolly, but she doesn't seem to be here, so I have nothing more to report on her behalf.
Okay, thank you so much. I know I saw her popped in, but I know things move around on your screen. All right, so let's move on to 8E, updates from staff liaison. And Chris, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. My update today will be fairly short. The 2 points I have for you are that we have one vacancy on our commission, and the city council will be looking to fill that vacancy in early February. I did send you all the redacted applications of the folks that are under consideration for that spot. There are 5 individuals the council will be considering. I do not know which member of council will be making this appointment. I don't have that schedule. But one of them will have the opportunity to make that appointment. And if you would like to register any comments, we ask that you send those to Councilwoman House, and she can disseminate those to other members of council as is appropriate to do so. So she's asked that if you have any comments or anything, that she can take those from you. The commission is not going to be taking any formal action on this to recommend anybody, but you as an individual, as a member of the public, but who serves on the commission, are able to say anything that you would like if you would choose to do so. The second thing I wanted to mention is that I will not be present for our meeting next month. So I'll have somebody else in our office cover for me, but I will be out on my honeymoon. So I'll be sorry to miss you all, and I will see you again all in March.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Is that it for the staff liaison report?
That's all for me, yes.
Okay. All right. The agenda for future meetings. So we have the next meeting. Chris, our next meeting is
February, February 19th.
February 19th. Now, as you will
Yes.
not be here, would we expect the agenda setting meeting and stuff? Would you let me know who will be doing that with me?
I can probably still do that one with you because
Okay.
I don't leave till the 14th. So
Okay.
I should still be in the office for, and I may have someone else from our office sit down. And I'm not sure who the person that will be filling in for me will be.
Okay.
But once I do, I'll invite them as well to it so they can be present for it.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so our next meeting is February 19th. All right, with the commissioners, do we have any conflicts with that date, or everything is fine with that date? Okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner Sanchez, Hernandez, and Reisenberg. Okay, before the adjournment, do we have anything else to discuss or any questions from the commissioners? And Georgiana, I want to say this right. Georgiana, yes?
Yes.
Georgiana Stackley. Oh, Stackley. Okay, Sasky. Okay, I'm looking at a little box there. Thank you so much for joining us. And do you have any comments before we adjourn?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a really good meeting from what I've seen. And so I appreciate just letting me kind of watch. I do see that Councilmember Garcia will be assigned when making that upcoming appointment. So like Chris mentioned, you know, you guys have time to kind of look at those a little bit, and any other comments there. And I'm kind of still learning here, but if you guys need anything from me, just feel free to reach out. I can put my email in the chat as well, and we can coordinate with Chris on anything that's needed for your commission.
Thank you so much. And just want to let you know that Chris is doing a really great job and he's keeping us on point, at least keeping me on point. Let me speak for myself. I really appreciate Chris. All right, if nothing else to discuss, I want to move on to the adjournment on this meeting at 3:04 p.m. I would like to adjourn our quota meeting. I wish everybody else success for the rest of the day and until next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Bye.